Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the major astrological transits for the month of May. May of 2024. We're here. This is the month we've been waiting for. This one's going to be a lot better than what we've been dealing with because a lot of the shit that we've been dealing with since the first of the year has been preparing us for May. So that's some good stuff. Now, the last 6 weeks has been all about dynamic changes. And we've all dealt with changes in a multitude of different ways. Between the eclipse axis and the Mercury retrograde, we've all dealt with changes in different ways. We have. And whenever it comes to the changes that have been brought to the surface, that have been brought to light to where we are shifting our focus, we're now moving towards some level of new commitment. Now, for some people, that commitment is the new job. It's closing on the new house. It's something tied to your family. It's an actual relationship. That level of new commitment. Are we starting out the gate day one? I am committed. Yeah, paperwork. No, not really. The human effect is it's going to play out at any time throughout the month. But there is this level and this energy towards a new commitment. For some people, that commitment is not to a person, a place, or a thing. It's to ourselves. And it's committing to heal. It's committing to let go of the past. It's committing to overcome certain situations and move away from where we have once had a power struggle, where something had a power and a grab over us. And we're realizing the only way to get better is to move forward without that anchor, to leave behind that fear. Every day in May, we wake up a little bit more aware of this new normal. Every day in May, we are solidifying a foundation to the new that we are going into, to that new commitment, to that new relationship, getting set up in the new home, taking those baby steps and committing to whatever you are healing for yourself. For some people, that's going to be really big things. And that's literally talking about the healing journey of healing the heart and healing the soul and learning alignment. For other people, it's something as mundane as I'm going to quit smoking. But that's the commitment you've made. Whatever that is, whatever you're committing to in that energy, it does not have to be big or small to be a commitment. But the entire month of May is getting more comfortable, more aware, more in tune with whatever the new normal is moving forward. Taurus is an earth sign, fixed earth. We want something to get set up and stuck, level, secure for days, months, and years to come. The thing about building a house, fixed earth, foundation, go with me on the examples, is you don't want to build a house overnight. You want to take your time. You want to make sure that the things that are going on in the ground, all those plumbing lines and drain lines, that they are secure before you pour that concrete. And this is why I'm talking about the foundation. We are building a foundation this month. We were meant to have changes. We were meant to revise. We were meant to restructure throughout the month of April. And the changes and the new energy that started to take shape in the month of April were months in the making. And I said that since last year, specifically October, November, months in the making to shift us into this new trajectory, into a new normal. And every day throughout the month, every day, we will wake up a little bit more secure, a little bit more aware, a little bit more in tune with what that's meant to be. Whatever changes you are making, whatever commitments you are making, whatever foundation you are building, a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more aware, secure, in alignment with where we're going next. Now, at the end of April, we had 2 planetary changes that are directly impacting the way May is starting. The first of those is Venus. Venus went into Taurus. Venus has not been in Taurus since April of last year. And that was right before eclipse season started, because that was fun. Right before eclipse season started. And for Venus going into Taurus right now, it's like, oh, great, I'm home, walking in the door. What the hell did Jupiter do to my house? Because Jupiter's been making changes. Since May of 2023, Venus has been in the sign of Taurus. And if you listen to me for a while, I've talked about we would not understand the full benefits of Jupiter in Taurus until the last week of March, all the way to the last week of May. It's May. In the month of April, we had our very first planetary conjunction to Jupiter, and that was the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. That conjunction set a vibration and a pattern change that is going to take place over the course of the next 14 years until we have the next one. And it's specific to whatever Taurus rules in your chart. Think about that. For some people, that's your 7th house of relationships. For other people, that's your 5th house of love and luck and children. For some people, that's your 10th house of career and public image and your goals. For some people, that's your travel house. And all of a sudden, all you want to do is move. And I don't mean move in the sense of like, I need a new house today. No, I mean like, I don't want to sit still ever again. And there's been a vibration change of taking us into a new direction, of taking us into something different. Throughout the month of May, we will have 2 more, for a total of 3, 2 more conjunctions to Jupiter. Those 2 planets, the Sun and Venus. And it is as we get closer to the end of Jupiter's transit through Taurus that we get the final rewards, the final understandings, the final developments to the expansion, the hope, the promise, the growth, the potential of what Jupiter in Taurus has been needing to be for us for a year. Because that's how long Jupiter's been here. We're at the 12-month range. And by the end of this month, Jupiter will move signs. And whenever we start to go into those Gemini transits at the end of the month, whatever we are solidifying in the new normal will quickly go to the next level of expansion and growth and busyness. And that's not a bad thing. And for many people, putting it in the construction terms, it's like taking the foundation up to slab. And even though the foundation is set, how do we make that bigger? We build the frame. And that will be the expansion. We build the frame. We build up. We continue the process. We're in the process of building something. And whatever we are building needs to be able to weather storms later this year and going into the first part of next year. Because I keep warning about that. Take your time to do the right things in this moment, to build the right connections in this moment, to make sure your slab is solid and sound. Because then whenever we go through the storms later this year, the energetic storms that we will have, they won't feel as torrential. You might have to replace a window, replace some shingles, but they won't knock down the whole house if we do the right things now. So that's important. Now, I said there were 2 planetary changes right at the end of April that are directly impacting the first days of May. The first one was Venus. The second one is Mars. On the very last day of April, so April 30th, Mars entered Aries. May 1st is the first full day of Mars in Aries. And this is where Mars is going to be all month. Now, Mars is the god of war. Acts and actions and reactions and accomplishments and desires. It is our determination. But when we're not in war and we're not in the hustle mode, Mars is a natural builder, forger. And I don't mean forger in the fraud sense. I mean it in like the metalworking sense, a blacksmith. Whatever we had shaken up in the month of March and April, mostly April, March was just gearing us up for it. Now we are going to solidify. Now we are going to become more aware of. And Mars going through Aries over the course of the next 6 weeks is going to go through and secure and add additional layers of adrenaline and an additional momentum to everything that got stirred up in April. So that way, whenever it's time for that bigger expansion and taking the frame up later in the month, we're ready for it. We're capable of handling it. We'll have the tools, we'll have the drive, we'll have the momentum, and we will be able to feel more secure in where we're going next. By starting the month with now 3 planets in their domicile, 3 of them technically. Neptune has been in Pisces forever. That's the first one. That's the one no one's expecting me to say. Mars now in Aries and Venus now in Taurus. It's a lot like coming into a new place. And once you walk around and do the tour, be like, I can work with this. I'm okay with this. Venus in the kitchen, opening every kitchen drawer, going, I love soft clothes. I love the appliances. I love the finishes. I love the stainless steel. But what do you hear on the other side of the house? There's a foosball table. Mars is happy too. There's a foosball table. Yeah, we're having fun. I can work with this. So much of the energy this month is pushing us into being able to work with something. Now, the human effect is we're all not exactly where we're meant to be in the new changes. That's the hard part. And if you're not exactly where you're meant to be, or you feel like you're meant to be, but you know you're getting closer to it, more than likely, you're the one going through mercurial activations. On April 25th, Mercury turned direct. On May 1st, when we start the month, Mercury will only be 2 degrees away from its point of shadow. And he will be doing his walk of shame from the Mercury retrograde all throughout the first half of the month. Like literally the first 2 weeks of the month is going to be Mercury in Aries. Wrapping up those final layers of change, solidifying the final little commitments, the final little selections, the final little acts. And then once they are solidified, you too will feel like you're in the new normal. It really just kind of comes down to what we're working towards and what we're working at. every day in May is waking up a little bit more aware, a little bit more secure, a little bit more in tune with wherever we're going next, whatever the next chapter is, whatever the next energy is, whatever the next thing is for you. I'm one of those people, I always warn if something's going to go in a good way or a bad way. For the most part, May's going to be a really good month. And considering all the shit we did deal with over the course of April, enjoy what you can. Now, the negative impact to having so many transits going through Taurus is that some people are still going to be stubborn. Well, I don't know if I want to take this meeting. Take the damn meeting. Well, I don't know if I want to go there. Get in the damn car. Do it. Do it. It'll be okay. We're meant to solidify a new normal. And once we solidify the new normal, then you can be stubborn. Then, not now. After we get things set into motion and set into where they're meant to be and meant to go. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited for all this. We're going to get into the charts. We're going to get into May 1st. Now, May 1st, we have a couple of things happening. So I'm literally starting this right after midnight, May 1st, 12:30 a.m. One, again, this is the first full day of Mars in Aries. If you feel your physical energy changing and that you can take certain actions and that you are having a different level of motivation each day through the month, as Mars is going through Aries, we will feel a little bit more umph, a little bit more drive, and a little bit more passion to do things. And that's a good thing. But it can also make you a little irritable if you're not prepared for that Mars energy. So be prepared for that. All right. First day, Mars in Aries. This is the entire month, Mars in Aries. Number 2. This is right after the exact Venus-Pluto square. So the Venus-Pluto square was going exact right at midnight. So I always keep these at the 30-minute hour. So we're just past that. In the overnight hours of April 30th going into May 1st, some people had some triggers as that energy was building. So somewhere on Tuesday, the 30th, for some people, it's going to be Wednesday, the 1st. There can be some triggers because it is Venus square Pluto. But what's different about this particular square is that within 36 hours of this square, Pluto is going to turn retrograde. So I actually feel like more people are not going to necessarily be dealing with a trigger, but more like a determination that we can leave something behind and move towards that new normal and move towards that new commitment. Now, whatever we're leaving behind, that power struggle like energy that's been activated over the last 2 weeks of April, specifically around that full moon in Scorpio, whatever we had activated for us, we're getting some type of notion of how we can move forward, how we can overcome the past, how we can let go of trauma, how we can let go of a power struggle, how we can leave something behind. Now, for some people, that's going to be really big stuff. For other people, that's not going to be big. It's going to be a vice, something that has had a hold over you, has been your coping mechanism that you're finally willing to leave behind. So that way you can move into the new direction and into whatever the new normal is going to be for you. So I love this energy. And as we continue throughout the day, getting into the morning time, the other thing that we have that also speaks to like a winding down and getting over certain things is this is the last quarter moon. So the last quarter moon usually solidifies whatever got heightened in a full moon, and we start to depressurize. So we have a lot of energy here that speaks to getting over the past, getting over fear, depressurizing, and solidifying our actions and reactions into a new direction and into a new normal. This is all the energy of May 1st. Whenever it comes to the 2nd, the very next day, Pluto, still loosely in that square with Venus, midday is going to turn retrograde. So I got this, it's between 12:30 and 1:30 p.m. I've got this now at 1:30. Here's Pluto retrograde. So again, whatever has been holding on to us, we start to make steps towards leaving things behind. And as we continue throughout the month, more and more of us are going to be able to feel less fear, less control, less ties to that power struggle, less frustration, and a bigger dynamic moving forward. It will not all happen overnight. It will not all happen on May 2nd when Pluto turns retrograde. But we will have something that internally comes through that shows us where we can take certain actions to continue the process. And that actually gets spoken between the 2nd and the 3rd, with Mars going through its sextile to Pluto. Now, remember the full moon that we just had was in Scorpio. Who rules Scorpio? Mars and Pluto. So a lot of this energy that got put together and spiked and everything else through that Scorpio full moon that happened at the end of April, we're moving away from the fear. We're finally overcoming things tied to that fear, tied to whatever got activated for you. For some people, it was a fear energy. A lot of people, it was fear. For other people, it was empowerment. And whatever we've been empowered to do, we're still taking actions towards something, but only so much will change. Remember that part? Only so much more can transform whenever it comes to Pluto's energy. So if you've been dealing with the negative impacts of Pluto, you're going to be feeling a lot better as May continues. If you haven't been dealing with the negative impacts of Pluto, I don't know that it's going to completely make a difference for everybody. But I do feel like a lot of people will be able to finally leave some things behind. Okay. We're going to move this forward a couple of days. We're sticking to the major transits because if you want the weekly breakdown, of course, you know where to go for that. And now we're going to get to the new moon in Taurus. There we go. New moon right here, 17 degrees of Taurus. Now, this new moon is loosely in a conjunction to Uranus. That's interesting because whenever we get closer to the Sun-Uranus conjunction, they say the most shocking day of the year is the day of the Sun-Uranus conjunction. But whenever you activate a new moon, that's going to take days to build into that. That tells me between the 7th and the 13th, so that's an entire week, that there can be things that come through unexpectedly, very exciting energy. We can have boosts in confidence. We can have like breakout energy, but we can also have something in this week span. Notice how I keep saying that week thing. It's a week span that has a shocking revelation, that has a big shock to the system, something very unanticipated, unexpected. So be aware of that. Again, this is the new moon in Taurus. Venus is in Taurus. We're starting to feel a lot more confident and a lot more at home with certain things. That's not a bad thing. Excuse me. Move this to the 13th. And on the 13th, that is when we get the Sun-Uranus conjunction. Now, I've got this real late in the evening. What I think is really interesting about this is getting this more exact. There's a reason why. Oh, damn. Sorry. So when the Sun-Uranus conjunction happens, I want you to take a look at Mercury. What was going on at the end of March? And I'm talking Easter weekend, the end of March. That's when Mercury hit 27 degrees. That's where Mercury turned retrograde on April 1st, 27 degrees. The day we get the Sun-Uranus conjunction, Mercury is crossing his point of shadow. So there are things that we were considering, talking about, looking at, that had sudden changes throughout the month of April, right in that time span. There's something directly from what was going on at the start of the Mercury retrograde that is feeding into this Sun-Uranus conjunction directly from it. And that's why I'm going into, like, for some people, there's going to be some excitement. For other people, there's going to be something unexpected, a shock to the system. Something will get revealed unexpectedly. This can have something to do with technology. This can have something to do with the internet. We can also have like sudden breaks in technology. Let's be clear about that because of what we're talking about. And considering the moon is making this conjunction to Pluto during this time, there can be some shock and fear involved with whatever is getting revealed. And I'm just being completely honest about that. But we can also have something that comes through around this day that makes us face a fear, something that we wanted to address, something that we felt like we were going to do weeks ago, but then we had the shit show energy throughout the month of April saying, oh, hey, we're not ready to do this yet. You're not ready. I say you're not ready. Why? Because it's the energy. But there can be some shocks to the system whenever it comes to this time span. And I want you guys to be prepared, especially if you're in the business side of things, that if you're trying to do something new, a new project, a new launch, again, new commitments with certain employees or business partners, something along these lines, I want you guys to be really tuned in to the middle weeks of May, because the amount of expansion that can suddenly hit, even though Taurus is not a fast moving sign, what's going to start to expand and hit levels of growth and coming through unexpectedly can have a very rapid effect energy that's going to follow. So be prepared for that. All right. Sun conjunct Uranus. This is the most shocking day of the year. We get to the 15th. This is 2 days later. And this is when Mercury is going to enter Taurus. So we are now done with Mercury's point of shadow. That was on the 13th. Mercury is now in Taurus. And another thing that has now started over the last 2 days has that the nodes are finally off the 15-degree mark. Why does that matter? Because that's where they've been since March. The last week of February, going into the first week of March, I said it back then too, that a lot of the topics and the situations and whatever we're dealing with are going to be very consistent to the same trek of energy, the same pattern, the same bullshit, depending on what we're dealing with, all the way until around this time. Mercury has been in Aries since March 10th. Now he's moved. The nodes had been at 15 degrees since around February 28th. So we're talking about two things that have energetically kept us locked into certain patterns that are now adjusting and are now changing and are now shifting. That's a good thing. Okay. Now, whenever it comes to Mercury, let's see, get this to the 16th. We got a couple different things here. Mercury is going to build into a square with Pluto. And we got a couple things going on between the 16th and the 17th. So I want to put these together because I feel like a lot of these are going to feed into whatever happens on the 18th and the 19th. So when I'm saying pay attention to these middle days of May, pay attention because there's a lot going on energetically that's getting activated for people. We have a mixture of contra-ANTISCIAs, secret alliances, and physical noticeable transits. So we have a contra-ANTISCIA between Mars in its domicile, Mars very, very empowered, and Saturn. That's going exact on the 16th. We also have a contra-ANTISCIA building between Pluto and Jupiter. Now that's interesting because a Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, which a contra-ANTISCIA is like a conjunction, it's a secret conjunction. And this one right here that's building has like the idea of like Pluto and Aquarius. So that's fear, trauma, frustration. There's the negative things, but also transformation and empowerment. There's the positive things, but Pluto's now retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So a lot of what we're getting empowered with is to overcome past fears and trauma. And with Jupiter's energy going into that contra-ANTISCIA, Jupiter is direct. Jupiter is in a very good place whenever it comes to Taurus. A lot of what we're starting to expand and see expand around us has this huge engulfing energy of like, again, we're getting over a fear. And this is energetically speaking that. Saturn's in Jupiter's sign doing its contra-ANTISCIA to Mars. And this is happening simultaneously. In a lot of ways, it's time for expansion. It's time for a momentum. It's time for an action and a reaction and an activity. It's time for these things to bolster, to level up, to harden foundation. You know, we want it to cure so we can do the next thing. And a lot of the energy in this middle area of May is really speaking to what is going to get bolstered, what is starting to cure, so we can go to the next thing. Now, the direct transit in these 2 days actually happens more on the 17th. And that is whenever Mercury is going to hit its square to Pluto. I think this is interesting that the Pluto-Mercury square is happening almost simultaneous to this Jupiter-Pluto contra-ANTISCIA. Because it's like we're voicing, we're explaining this energy that we want to overcome, that we are trying to expand, that has empowered us, that has brought us to this area. And it's like whenever you tell your story, it spreads like wildfire. Now let's talk about the wildfire energy. That's more exact on the 18th. And this day, this is wicked. One, Mercury is still in its square to Pluto. So we're going to start with that. Two, look at these double conjunctions. This is amazing. This is a hellacious energy. Now, whatever came through in that Sun-Uranus conjunction is likely feeding into this because we have Venus, the ruler of Taurus. Venus was in Taurus whenever we had the Sun-Uranus conjunction. So we're getting a solution. We're getting the next round of something. We're getting more information. We're having more unexpected energy. We're having more excitement. But we also have the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, something that's getting revealed, something about the balance, something that we can feel hopeful about, something that offers light to the need to heal something. There's something that gets recognized. And for some people, it's going to be a really great day because whatever's coming to light, whatever is getting recognized, it is going to be hopeful, healing, helpful, and all of these types of things. But we can't always have it one-sided. So there's me playing devil's advocate. The other side to that, with that Venus-Uranus conjunction, is that one side might feel great and hopeful that everything's going really, really well. But if you put this in the sense of like a law situation, and there's a reason why I'm saying this. if you put this into the concept of a law situation, then there's usually a winner and a loser in the case. It goes one way or the other. It doesn't go all ways. So you can have some type of decision or something that is brought to light, that is revealed, that is meant to affect the balance of something, specifically in regards to the equilibrium and bringing things back into balance, because we had so much purge energy last year. But when this all happens, remember Venus rules Libra and the moon is in Libra when this goes exact. So it's not just about what Taurus rules in your chart. It's also this day about what Libra rules in your chart. Because there's some level of energy here in the unexpected, exciting, revealing, hopeful, mass expansion energy that for some people is going to restore balance, moon in Libra, or it's going to render justification, which is still balance, but you're not going to like the balance because it's not necessarily going to go in your favor. It really kind of depends on where we're at on that karmic element of things. And I'm really sorry I keep coughing, guys. My allergy meds have not fully kicked in, obviously. So I apologize about that. But to me, I think this day is beautiful. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be great. And it really speaks to something that we're going to be driven and motivated to do, because I want to bump this one more day. I'm not going very far. We're going to the 19th. So 18th to 19th. 1, this is the last day of the sun in Taurus. 2, this is whenever Mars hits a conjunction to the North Node. 3, the moon is going to make a conjunction to the South Node opposite the moon. I'm sorry, opposite Mars and the North Node. So whatever can be coming to light, if we're dealing with health things around these days, can be something that is directly revealed that's going to impact the body. So for my people that keep going through the health issues and you come to me for the medical astrology, we can have some things around the 19th that come through that make us aware of something in the body. And with Mars conjunct the North Node, make us very, very aware of a decision and a motivation as to how we need to move forward from here, the actions that need to happen from here. And for a lot of people, it is time for those actions and motivations to set in. Knowing that the sun is going through Taurus at the 29-degree mark, a lot of people, whatever that action is, we know we're doing something for the last time. We're leaving something behind. There is some level of an ending in some way. And even if you're leveling up in something, that's still an ending in some way. If you get promoted, doesn't mean you're changing jobs in the sense of going to a new employer, but your old position and the old role that you did and those old requirements of you, they're not the same anymore because you're going into the new position. So even a level up has an ending involved, making everybody aware of that. And we are coming to the close of one thing around these middle 2 weeks of May, but also expanding on something else. So for some people, it's just like it's ending your training. Even if it's just the energetic training of just trying to get aware of some things, we're ending some training because we're going to quickly expand. And that continues as we go into the next day. The next day, here's the sun in Gemini, start of Gemini season. Venus is right in between Jupiter and Uranus. So there is this energy of like, we're building towards something else. We know we're about to get a solution towards something else. And whenever it comes to a couple of these days, one, let's talk about the 21st. From the 21st to the 26th, we have this exact sextile, which we're kind of in all throughout these weeks anyways. We have this sextile between Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is the modern ruler, Pisces. Jupiter is the traditional ruler. Anytime we have Neptune start to impact the transits, I remind everybody we are only seeing so much clearly, that we can have some things that we are doing and some things that are coming to light, that part of our judgment is impacted. And we have so much new going on that feels hopeful and boastful. And I was serious about build a solid foundation, because once we get into some of the energies, there will be some things we are not seeing clearly. And again, only so much of what we've been doing in the first half of the year is going to stick when we go through the storms and the tests later this year. I do not want to take away from how good this is going to feel, but I'm always the devil's advocate, reminding you, like, only so much is going to stick. Only so much. But whenever it comes to the sextile between Neptune and Jupiter, and this is happening at that 29-degree mark, a lot of what's starting to expand, again, there's something that's coming to a close, but also there's a hopeful new beginning in the midst. But only so much is going to stick. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep reminding you, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy. I'm being realistic. Okay. Neptune and Jupiter, they're going to be doing their thing for basically a week. We're going to get to the 22nd. I bumped that too far. And this is where we get the sun's trine with Pluto. When we start to get into these Gemini transits, this is where we start to do the frame up. This is where we're starting to expand from the foundation that has been built. So that's why I was saying, like, partway through the month, we'll get into a frame up energy. The trine, air to air, voicing, feeling like we can voice certain things, expansion of knowledge, gaining more knowledge. And the more that we know, the more that we're capable of voicing, the more that we're capable of handling information-wise, puts more and more fear to bed. It puts more and more of the past issues out of the way and allows for us to take steps forward. And many people are going through some level of energetic healing and learning things to help go through the healing. Some of us, we have been the Plutonian ones, and we're seeing the people that we're helping learn more and explain more and voice more. And you're seeing how their fear is falling away. That's a good thing. And we're going to recognize some of those patterns after we get into Gemini season, specifically after the moon's trine with Pluto. On the 23rd, so I'm not going very far. I'm so excited for this day. I'm ready for this day. Give me this day. Okay, we got a couple things going on here. One, this is the full moon in Sagittarius. Full moon right here. 2-degree sun, 2-degree moon. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And look what's going on at this 29-degree mark. We get this Jupiter-Venus conjunction in this sextile to Neptune. Isn't that pretty? Well, that's a pretty full moon. Wow. Hopeful, healing, helpful. There can be things that speak to our faith. We can have joyful expectations of something and being able to move and being able to travel, seeing that expansion of change, seeing how that foundation has led to this next form of change. This full moon is in a sextile to Pluto. We're again in a peak of certain energy as to how we're releasing fear and how we're going to be moving forward from here, because so much of this energy is about the forward motion. The foundation is cured. The frame is going up. We're starting to solidify the actual structure. Little by little, the walls are going up. And I don't mean that in the defensive mechanism. I mean that in the building mechanism. Okay. So all of this at the same time. Venus conjunct Jupiter, sextile Neptune, full moon in Sagittarius. I bumped this a few hours, and I do mean just a few hours, and then Venus goes into Gemini. There you go, 4:30 in the afternoon, Venus is in Gemini. Whatever we are agreeing to whatever is coming to terms, whatever is coming to a close, whatever is finally reaching the peak of something, as soon as we sign off on it, as soon as that verdict comes out, as soon as we talk to the doctor, we immediately shift our focus and we take that energy, that solution, that idea, that guidance, that whatever it is, and we shift our focus. We're taking it with us into the new. For some people, going into the new and going into the Gemini transits, it's like, okay, I've got the diagnosis. Now I got to go do the research. I got the final commitment. Now I need to take something to production. I got the verdict. Show me the money. Show me the payout. Show me you did wrong. And there is this immediate coming together, coming to agreement, coming to close, coming to terms. And whatever these terms are, then the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, as soon as Venus changes signs, it's like, okay, I got the go ahead. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. There's a lot of rapid movement around this day. And again, we still got the Neptune, Jupiter trine, and it's actually exact on this day. So again, only so much of it are we seeing clearly. Devil's advocate. Sorry, it is what it is. Moving this along. Between May 23rd, which we're on, and June 15th, as soon as Venus enters Gemini, she is now within the 3-degree range of the sun, and she is getting closer to her rebirth. Now, her rebirth will not happen in May, but the aesthetic, whenever it comes to Venus, physical beauty, the things that give us pleasure, the creation of what we're working towards, that's going to have a boost, that's going to have a revelation, that's going to have things come to light in the month of June. We're working on that. We're solidifying that. We're going through the motions of dealing with that. So be aware of what Gemini rules for you. Is this one of your financial houses? Because we're going to get a revamp there. Is this a career house for you? Because we're getting a revamp there. We're getting a level up there. Is this your 4th house of home life, and family? Because we might see something change within the family. And again, this is starting in a trine to Pluto. So a lot of that revamping, a lot of that change, a lot of that shift also, again, has us leaving the past, leaving fear, leaving frustration, leaving the trauma behind. And that's a good thing. So these two are going to be starting their 3-degree range. You can see that right here. That's how we finish this month out. That will take us all the way to June 15th. It's going exact on June 4th, but I'm making us aware because it's starting in these last 2 weeks of May. All right. Moving this along. We're going to get to May 25th. And this is when Venus is going to trine Pluto. Now, this actually happens really early in the morning, around 6:30 a.m. And the other thing about the 25th is, like, again, we get this trine with Pluto, this exact trine. We're overcoming fear. We're overcoming frustration. And the next layer of something comes through. Now, we had that Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Jupiter had been in a contra-ANTISCIA to Pluto. Now we're going through actual trines to Pluto. So it's just like we're coming together, we're coming to agreement, we're coming to terms, and then we have the expansion. And if you bump this to 6:30 in the evening, still on May 25th, Venus trine Pluto, we're making steps forward while overcoming the past. We're making steps forward and we're finalizing certain changes and transformation. We're seeing people take steps forward and releasing that level of fear and finally moving away from the power struggle. And now Jupiter is in Gemini. This is where Jupiter is going to be now for the next year. Jupiter's in Gemini. The first month and a half of Jupiter in Gemini, we are going to see expansion, and we are going to see change, and we're going to learn a lot of things, and it's going to get really loud and really noisy and really busy, because again, we're taking some agreement in that new foundation and they're immediately expanding upon it. We're immediately moving with it. We're immediately going to another direction with it. That other direction is the Gemini transits. Okay. Now, we get to the last day of the month. Again, we're sticking to the major transits, not every little detail. And this is going to go exact right around midnight on the 31st. So I'm going to go ahead and just bump this there. And we get the Mercury-Uranus conjunction. Mercury rules Gemini. Look at all of that stuff that just moved into Gemini. Look at the fact that Venus and the Sun are getting closer to their conjunction. They're within a week of their exact conjunction. Venus is in mutual reception with Mercury, so they're working within one another. So a lot of what's about to come to light, what's about to get revealed, what's about to come through, we're breaking the news, we're signing off on something, we're getting some type of information that again is going to impact some of the things that are going to come to light in June. Some of the changes and the transformations of what's going through in June. Considering on this day, we get the Moon-Saturn conjunction during the Mercury-Uranus conjunction. A lot of what's coming through right here is actually in a more responsible sense. We can be taking certain responsibilities. And again, whatever we're signing off on is directly impacting what's going on in the sign of Gemini. Mercury's a very busy host all of a sudden. He hasn't been busy in a long time, but he's super busy now. Mercury is in Taurus, that energy of where we were building that solid foundation. Now we're seeing more things come to light. Now we're having more unexpected changes. Now we're getting closer to certain types of news and information. You can have a shock to the system that says like something's not quite ready. We need to take one more extra step. We need to do a couple more responsible things. We need to do one or two extra things that we're not ready to do in this exact moment, but we get something unexpected. So literally the last day of the month, expect the unexpected. See and expect for other people to have very unexpected changes and breakthroughs around this time. We have so much growth and expansion all coming together very, very quickly. And we are again building up from this foundation. Every day in May, we are getting more equipped, more comfortable, more confident in our new normal, our new commitments, our new desires, our new way of doing things. By the time we get to the end of May, we know what the new is. We're aware. We're involved. We got it. We understand. Moving forward, we just need the energy to move with us. Now, the thing about the month of May is most of the month, the transits are going through Taurus. That's not going to move quickly. So that means whenever we do get to those big days, that they're either going to be major energy of like a custom or, not the right word, but accomplishment, feeling recognized, hopeful, having certain things come to light. And after that level of recognition and that level of appreciation and that accreditation, that empowering energy kind of sets in, and a little bit more of that fear just kind of falls away and it falls to the backside. It'll make us more aware of where we're taking things into that next level, that level of expansion and busyness. And to be clear, when we get into a lot of these Gemini transits, which we're three right there, the mind will get busier. People will get busier. The conversations will be more rampant and busier. There'll be a lot more information that needs to be addressed, that needs to be learned, that needs to be taken into account. We're coming to certain agreements right there in the middle of the month that lead immediately into a new direction and into a new path and into a new area of expansion. So as we're expanding our brand, we're expanding our business. So as we're just trying to heal. And as we get certain levels of confirmation in our healing process, we're immediately able to go into the next direction with it and work with it. And sometimes you get some level of connection, a connection with a guru, a connection with a healer, that as soon as you are connected with that person, their knowledge is what's going to help you expand. It's what's going to help you grow. It's what's going to help you continue the process of overcoming the fear and the trauma and the abuse and all the negative impacts of what Pluto has represented for people. But some of us, we are the guru. And we're going to see the more and more people are connecting and healing, that we're going to see that level of faith get restored. We're going to see that level of direction. We're going to see where we're going next and how people are moving with those tools, with that knowledge, with your voice. Sometimes you are the guru, you are the teacher, you are the person that gives hope. Sometimes you're the person that needs the healing, and you need the right person to help you in the healing process. But as soon as you bridge over that area and you make that commitment to yourself, the information, the knowledge, the expansion will be huge. I feel like for most of us, the month of May is a really good month. And we're going to see a lot of helpful turnaround. We're going to see these new directions and these new paths and these new beginnings. And we're going to see this whole different level of knowledge and attention to details. But we're at the start of attention to details whenever it comes to those Gemini transits. Jupiter is going to be here for a year. Now, they say that when Jupiter goes through mercurial signs, that Jupiter is in its detriment. I agree whenever it comes to Jupiter in Virgo. I don't necessarily agree whenever it comes to Jupiter in Gemini, because Jupiter is an air sign. Gemini is an air sign, and Jupiter likes to expand everything it touches. What I do anticipate is a lot of hot air the longer we deal with Jupiter and Gemini. A lot of hot air, a lot of very boisterous opinions, a lot of big talking people with no bite, with no backbone. That's the truth. The more information we get, the more louder people will get. I personally enjoy Jupiter going through Gemini. I do. Because I feel like there's nothing wrong with expanding knowledge if we're actually taking on true knowledge and learning something that is real and tangible. However, there is a frustration. And whenever you look at what comes through with areas towards social media, the type of information that will spread very quickly will not always be accurate. It will not always be true. It will not always be real. And it will be something that facilitates a lot of the damage that we will incur in the storms later this year. Any information you start to get, any things that you start to learn, check and double check your sources. Don't just go off the first thing you hear and the first thing you read. The best way to know your gift, know the situation, know what you're dealing with, is to focus on facts and not the myth, not the lies. That's going to be important. Be aware that there will be a lot of busyness, mental busyness, information overload. And we will be at the very beginning of it in those last few days of May. This is more going to be something we start to deal with once we get into the June side of things. But we will be at the beginning of this once we get into the last days of May. But I am hopeful. I am excited. I hope you guys are also excited. There's a lot of positive energy to the month of May. And when it comes to comparing its energy to the dynamics of what we have dealt with through March, through April, and even before that, since January. January had a lot to do with recovery. February was forcing us to make some long-term decisions. It brought us into certain directions. It gave us certain light. March and April were about the changes. March was the emotional trigger changes. April was about physical reactive changes until we got to the end of the month. And then we had the next round of emotional things that got spurred up in that Scorpio full moon. The changes that have been necessary to get us into our new direction, they are mostly done. We just have a few things that'll wrap up in the very first 2 weeks of May based off of Mercury being in shadow. But Mercury is the only planet that's post-retrograde shadow. Everything else that we're doing, we're meant to do at this time. You're meant to make the changes. You're meant to go in this direction. You're meant to deal with these things at this time. Positive and negative at this time. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. Thank you for everybody that's been sharing the videos. I sincerely appreciate it. Hit me up with questions, hit me up with concerns, and I'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.